Katie Kempner, and welcome to Perspectives here at the Ipsos Girls Lounge at the Cannes Lion Festival. Right now, I am really excited to be talking with Stacy Elliott of Microsoft. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for stopping by.
Oh, this is not a hard place to stop by.
So could we start just by you taking us a little bit through your career?
Sure. I started out my career in broadcast journalism, and I kind of figured out early on that wasn't quite the right place for me, and I transitioned into a public relations role and kind of expanded from there into marketing, all elements of demand generation. And most recently, although it's been quite some time, I've been at Microsoft for a little over 17 years. So it started out in the early parts of technology and kind of stayed with it, and it's been a lovely place to work, and I've had a lot of opportunity there.
That's so incredible that you've been there for so long. A lot of younger women feel that the smart way to do it is to, try to make jumps, and that's the only way they're going to get ahead in their career. I've been at the same company, basically with the same job in bigger roles as we've grown. What do you say to that? Which path do you think is smarter? Because clearly it worked for you to stay at the same company.
When I started at Microsoft, I remember my first manager said to me, you have an opportunity to have a very long career here. And he said, Microsoft is a very large company, and there are lots of different places to work within Microsoft. And he said, if you get in a situation where you have a manager that maybe isn't the right person for you, or it's not the right job, just wait, and wait for the next good thing to come up. And I've listened to that advice for the last 17 years, and I've transitioned into different roles as I've had different needs, or as I felt like that particular role wasn't working for me. But the one that I've been in now, I've been in this group for a little over 10, 12 years. So this latest place that I've landed, I'm quite happy in.
One thing that you told me before, I know you have two boys.
I do.
You have this really terrific flexible working situation,
right,
or schedule. Can you talk about that a little?
Well, when I came into Microsoft, I was in a director level role, which is relatively senior for coming into a company. And I worked pretty hard for the first 5 or 6 years, and then I became pregnant with my first child. And I was still working full time. And then as my second child came right after the first one, they're 15 months apart, those two boys, yes. We were living in Seattle, and it was quite far from the rest of both my husband and my family. And we felt the need to move back closer to our families so that the children could experience their grandparents. And I really struggled with what I was going to do. So I had a relatively big job at that point, and I needed to resign that role because I couldn't do it from Dallas, which is where we ended up moving for my husband's job. And at the time, I thought I was going to leave the company, and so I took my maternity leave, and then I came back, and I was sort of looking around, and I found a job doing executive communications, and I thought, what if I found a job share partner? I had very strong skills in executive communications and speech writing, and so I looked for someone in Seattle who was sort of interested in a similar kind of experience, and we interviewed for the job together. And I remember it was so interesting, we would go to each of the interviews, and there's two of you, and we're like, yes, we're interviewing as a job share, and these are the two sides of what you get from both of us. And we got hired. And
wow.
We were really one of the first early job share programs within Microsoft.
Wow.
And at that point, we both became evangelists within the company. We spoke at the women's conference every year about how could two senior level women do this. And what started from there was my ability to work remotely. And I've been remote for 12 years now. And I've moved 3 times within that sequence, and no one minds, because I've learned how to run a conference call effectively. I've learned how to manage a team effectively being remote. I get on a plane when I need to. I show up when I need to. And so, that was one of the things that I felt like I was an early pioneer in the company, and they were great to allow us to do it. I ultimately went back full-time, as did my job share partner, and then I scaled back at one point during the last 10 years when I needed to for some family reasons, and the company was quite accepting of that, and the flexibility has been great.
That's extraordinary, because none of those things are things most people think are options for them.
Right.
When you decided you wanted a job share partner, how did you go about finding someone?
You know, I was having a conversation with a colleague who was also a friend, and she was burned out. She had been at the company for, at that point, 15 years. And I think she started there right out of college or so. And I said, well, her name's Stacy also. I said, Stace, why don't we think about, you know more of, she was much more of a technologist than I was, and the job that we were going for, we needed someone with that kind of technology experience. I had much more of the internal communications and marketing experience, and we were a great balance that you might not necessarily find in one person. And so we pitched the idea to the HR people, and they said, well, I don't know, why don't you try it? So
yeah. I have somewhat of a flexible work schedule too. I work from home on Fridays if I'm not traveling, and I actually find I get the most work done on Fridays when I'm home because nobody is bothering me. I can just sit at my dining room table all day long,
right,
and just focus, with my dogs at my feet,
right,
and it's lovely. What do you say to people that say, oh, you don't get as much done if you're home?
I've been doing it so long that it's just second nature to me, and I know how to engage, and I know the tricks to being remote.
Yeah.
You've got to be physically online almost all the time. Not when you're sleeping, obviously, but you need to have your phone around, you need to have your PC around. I mean, Microsoft's a technology company, obviously we leverage it, a lot, but you learn that you don't want people to perceive that you're not available to them.
Right.
And I learned that early. I know other people haven't been as successful in that because it feels like, oh, Jane takes off Tuesdays and Thursdays because she's part-time. We can't schedule a meeting with her. People tend to judge that, whether they should or they shouldn't. It's just the perception, and people feel like, we can't do that meeting on Tuesday even though we really need to have it because Jane can't be there. So I never approached my remote or part-time or job share with that scenario. I just flexed. I knew how to trade the time on and off. So I take conference calls when my boys are in the car and they know they have to sit in the back and be quiet. Like, Mommy's on a conference call, nobody can talk. But that's just the way that it's always been around our house. So
I wanted to ask you, when Marissa Mayer took the role as CEO of Yahoo, obviously very, very publicly, it came out that she said no more working from home. Everyone has to be in the office. What did you think of that?
Well, I had some thoughts about it, and I can't tell you how many emails I got about it. It was a polarizing thing, I think, for people. Some people either felt like that was a great thing, and other people felt like, wow, that's sort of setting women back. For me, that wouldn't work. I wouldn't be able to work in that environment. I need to have the flexibility to do the things that I feel like I need to do as a mom. I think what's interesting about that is, and in particular my situation, I've just recently taken a bigger role at Microsoft, and two opportunities presented themselves to me, and I was ready. I was ready to step it up, and I'm ready to take on a bigger role, and everybody in my family understands and agrees. So, I think that allowing women that time to devote to their families or balance it while their kids are young, and it keeps them in the workplace, and I haven't missed a beat. I'm going to continue to contribute to the company and step back up and take on a bigger job. If I had quit my career, it would be very hard for me to do that now.
And it's so interesting though, because there's all this talk about how do you keep women when they're having children,
right,
from leaving altogether, and I think companies make a very big mistake if they're not open to different flexible situations because they're missing all that thought leadership.
It's so true, and the interesting thing was the woman that I worked for that hired us into the role to do this executive comms role recognized the value that I had because she'd known me from the time that I had been at Microsoft. We were colleagues and peers, and early on I said to her, Allie, I don't want to get promoted. I don't need a bigger job. I'll do more that you want me to do, but I'm not aspirational right now. I want to balance my life and my family, but I'm going to do the best job that you can imagine. And she said that as she continued to manage me, and we were close friends, it was such a breath of fresh air. Like, I know what this woman can do. I know that she's not going to try to be political. I know that she's not going to try to move to a different job. I just have someone who's dedicated to doing great work. And they gave me the time I needed, and now I'm going to come back and just take on all that much more, which is wonderful.
You raised such a good point too, because there in different times of your life, whether it's because of children or something else,
Exactly.
you have different motivations in your career.
Exactly.
And maybe you're not at one point aspiring for the next job. Maybe what you need then is to have a steady career, and then you're at another, and that's what I think women have to, everybody really has to remember, that's okay to be at different places in different parts of your life.
Exactly. And I think that we need the voices of women at all stages of their career. We can't just have the voices of women at the early stage and then they step out of the career track because they're having children, and then they try to come back and it's difficult for them. It's important that companies have the perspective of women throughout those experiences to help them if they're building their brands or building technology. And so I'm extraordinarily grateful to Microsoft for allowing me to stay and to take the time that I needed. I was a great employee during that time. I just had an agenda, and I created some parameters around whether I was interested in taking on more responsibility. And it worked out for both. I had 2 different managers during that time, and they were both super happy with the arrangement. So, yeah.
Well, I like to end my interviews by just asking if you have one piece of advice that has guided you through your career that you could share with us. What would it be?
In fact, I just mentioned it. I think it's really important to teach people how to treat you. And I had a conversation with one of my new employees in my new role, a woman, yesterday. And I said to her, she was struggling with, people trying to get on her diary and, really taxing her schedule. And I said, you've really got to teach people how to treat you. And so you need to say no when you can't do it. And if you say yes all the time, then people are going to think, we'll go to her, she'll do it no matter what, no matter what time it is. So, creating those boundaries, people learn that when you say no, you're truly not able. And that when you can do it, you're going to give the very best effort that you can. So I think it's important, to teach people
you can say no.
You can say no.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say no to this. Thank you.
Of course not.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you.
You too. Thank you.